So let's cultivate our motivation. So always at the beginning of activities, we generate bodhicitta, the aspiration to become fully awakened so we can be of the greatest benefit to living beings. So when we have generated bodhicitta, when we have that thought in our mind, then we should do our best to not let the mind go to thinking about ourselves and our own problems. And we should keep our mind focused on being one among countless sentient beings, seeing that all of us are stuck in samsara, so really taking a big perspective of our situation, knowing that we and others have the Buddha nature, the potential to become fully awakened. And so with those things in our mind, then to listen to the teachings, to do our meditation practice or whatever activity we're doing in the day, without letting the mind wander from that motivation. Of course, we need to focus on whatever action we're doing. Yeah, so you have to pay attention to that. But not to let the mind just start spinning out about our complaints, our unsatisfied wanting and longing, our doubts about our own capability, our doubts about the Dharma, all this kind of self-talk that is very afflictive, that we are very habituated to. And so placing our mindfulness on bodhicitta and on the task that we're doing with that motivation, so that our mind remains joyful with whatever activity we're doing. The afflictive mind is an unhappy mind. And it leads us spiraling into non-virtue and into more and more unhappiness. So while we have this precious human life, while we have the opportunity to practice, let's put our mind in a good direction, one that benefits ourselves and others. So spend a minute and cultivate bodhicitta. So we've been on the part of the book about samsara. We finished the first truth, the truth of dukkha. We're talking about the second truth, the truth of the origin of dukkha. And we've been going through the 6 root afflictions. We finished talking about attachment, our favorite one, and anger, our really favorite one. Yeah. It's interesting to observe, do you spend more time in attachment or more time in anger? Or is it 50-50? Okay, so now we're going on to the third of the six, arrogance. This is sometimes translated as pride. I prefer the term arrogance because pride in English has a double meaning. You know, you can be proud of somebody. In other words, somebody did a really good job about, doing something, and you feel really proud of them. Yeah, so that's a good kind of pride. Whereas this is an afflictive one. So arrogance, to me, doesn't have any good connotations. Does it to you? You know, I feel arrogant because that person was so kind. No, but I do feel proud of somebody who, if you have a little kid who is really kind, or even an adult, for that matter, you feel proud of them when they do something really good. But this is an afflictive mental factor, so arrogance. Okay, so arrogance is a mental factor that, based on the view of a personal identity that misapprehends how the I or mine exists, grasps strongly an inflated image of ourselves. So it's a mental factor, yeah, and it's based on view of a personal identity. So in Tibetan, that's the term jigta. Sometimes it's translated as view of the transitory collection, which leaves you wondering, what does that mean? Transitory collection means the aggregates, but it's not a view of the aggregates. It's a view of the I and mine being the owner, the one that possesses. Okay, so it's a kind of person as well. So dependent on that grasping from the Prasangika view at an inherently existent I or mine, then arises arrogance. And what this mental factor does is it strongly grasps an inflated image of ourself. Okay, so already by the definition, we see that it is it's a wrong cognizer. Okay, because what it's holding on to is an inflated image of ourself. Now, that image can be inflated in many different ways. Very often it's I am better than others, but it can also be inflated I am worse than others. Okay, so just any kind of inflated image of how important I am, how valuable I am, how talented I am, how nobody else could possibly be as wonderful as me, and conversely, how nobody else could possibly be as degraded, as stupid, as much of a failure and an idiot as I am. Okay, so inflated. Okay, so it misapprehends how the I or mine exists and strongly grasps an inflated image of ourself. So notice inflated image. Image is not reality. Image is the conceptual appearance to your mind. It's not who you really are. Okay, so this inflated image is, not who you are. I'm really sorry to have to tell you that. Those of you who think you are the worst ones in the world, I'm really sorry you are not. Okay, please, you cannot sit there and be arrogant about how bad you are. That's just too much. And those of you who think that you're the best one in the world, well, in 5 minutes, you'll think you're the worst one in the world. So this just what I said, okay? Yeah, you aren't the best one. You aren't the worst one. Oh, then you're going to go into identity crisis. Who am I then? Because our identity is usually I'm the best or I'm the worst, isn't it? Yeah. So how does arrogance function? it functions to prevent us from learning and increasing our virtue, and it causes us to disrespect or denigrate others. So how does arrogance prevent us from learning? The Tibetans have a little analogy here. The grass grows in the valley. It doesn't grow on the peaks of the mountains. So the fertile area is in the valley. When your mind is humble, it's receptive to learning. Yeah, virtue and learning will grow. On the peaks of the mountains, you may stand up high, but nothing grows there. It's solid rock. Okay, so with arrogance, it really prevents us from learning, because when we think we know it all, then we, of course, have nothing to learn. Nobody has anything intelligent to share with us because we are already superior. Okay, so it prevents us from learning. It prevents us from increasing our virtue because, again, if I'm so wonderful, well, I don't need to purify. I don't need to create merit because I'm already so wonderful. Okay. So this mind clearly doesn't think of future lives. It just thinks maybe I have some high status or knowledge this life, and it's going to continue on ad infinitum. Okay, and it causes us to disrespect or denigrate others. So we are so great that then we have permission to tweet all the insults that we want. Yeah, accuse people of things they didn't do, put them down, exaggerate their faults, and boast how wonderful we are. I'm not talking about anybody in particular. Okay? But this is what arrogance does. It gives us permission to act in an incredibly disrespectful manner towards others because we hold ourselves in such high esteem that, we must have the power to judge who's good and who's bad. And how do we judge it? Well, the people who agree with me and the people who support me and the people who like me, they are the good people. And the people who disagree with me and who don't support me, well, they're just clearly stupid. Yeah, and I should proclaim their stupidity so that the world knows it. But when we act like that, yeah, we're actually saying more about ourselves than we are about the other person. Yeah, somebody who goes on and on and on about how bad somebody else is, or when they go on and on and on about how bad they are, they're saying more about themselves than about anybody else. Yeah. I think I've mentioned, sometimes when you meet people who have been to other monasteries before, and they come here and they start to badmouth the previous place where they were. I mean, of course, the previous place may not have been great, but there's one way of talking about, things that could be improved. And then there's a different way of actually criticizing people and places. They're different, okay? So I always feel that when somebody comes here and they do that, yeah, that they're really saying much more about themselves than they are about anybody else. Yeah, and it's usually anger, but there's attachment, there's arrogance in there too, because I am so superior, I can judge, how some other monastery functions or what some other teacher does or whatever. I am so bright and intelligent. Okay, so Vasubandhu, probably in Abhidharmakosha, he mentions seven types of arrogance. So as we go through them, think of examples that you have of when you've had this in your mind. It's much easier, of course, to think of examples of other people's arrogance. So you can think of that too, because that will give you an example to go by of how somebody else appears when they are arrogant. And then apply that to yourself, and you'll see what you get arrogant about and how you appear to other people when you're arrogant. Okay, so the first arrogance is the arrogance thinking I'm superior in relation to someone who is, quote, quote, inferior. So it might be somebody, you're the boss, they're the employee, you have some superior status in society, they have a lesser status, you're older, and they're younger. Of course, nowadays, it's usually the younger people who think they know more than the older ones. Yeah, there's a certain arrogance of being young. I know how to use a smartphone. I know how to use a computer. Grandma doesn't. Grandpa, they don't know how to do that. They're such idiots. Of course, Grandpa and Grandpa have a lot of experience from living life, and we can learn from their experience, but we close down and we don't learn because we think we're so much more talented because we know how to exercise our thumbs better than they know how to exercise their thumbs. Okay, so arrogance thinking I'm superior in relation to someone who is inferior. So in this and in the next two forms of arrogance, we're comparing ourselves with others in terms of wealth. Okay, so in this one, I have more wealth than others. Looks, yeah, I'm more attractive than others. I have better clothes. I'm sexier. Everybody looks at me. They don't look at the other people. Knowledge, I have a degree in this and that, or I don't have a degree because I don't need to have a degree because I can teach myself, and I've, educated myself about all these things, so I'm very knowledgeable. Social standing, you're from an elite university, you're from, the upper class in whatever city you live in or whatever country. Racially, if your country has various gradations of people, you get arrogant over your race. Okay. Athletic ability, look at those muscles, I can throw everybody. I can make those baskets, just bring them down to my level. But especially about athletic ability, like you're talented and people praise you and so on. Very easy to get inflated. Movie stars in terms of fame, and talent in terms of being an actor, an actress, or a singer or something. Very easy to get puffed up about that kind of things. And then all sorts of other factors too. If your hobby is sewing masks, then you're the best mask sewer. And if your hobby is bonsai trees, you have the best bonsai trees. You're the most talented one in doing that. So whatever it is that we're doing, we like to have a high opinion of ourselves. We're somehow better, I can sit in meditation position longer than others without moving. I can sit up straighter than everybody else. Okay, my 3 dots from doing the Bodhisattva ordination show they're bigger than your dots. Yeah. And then I say, well, mine have overgrown because I'm senior. They go, no, but mine are bigger, so others know that I've done that. They don't think you've even done it. Okay, so we can get arrogant about whatever it is. We can get arrogant about it. You know, our musical ability, our artistic ability, our ability to cook, our ability to clean, our ability to lop branches, you know, whatever it is. Watch your mind, you know, and how the mind always says, I do this better than others. You know, I'm really talented. Yeah, give me those big dead willows. I could pull them down myself, you know. Yeah. Yeah. So you can get arrogant about me because that's true. You're better than me with that. But, yeah, so we can, you know, we inflate ourselves over anything. Okay? I mean, the color of my robe is nicer than the color of your robe. It doesn't matter. Okay? Okay. So then the second one is arrogance, thinking I am superior, but in relation to someone who's actually equal to us. So it can be in terms of comparing ourselves to the same things as above: wealth, looks, knowledge, social standing, athletic ability, fame, okay, intelligence, religion. I'm so intelligent that I have this religion, you know. I have the best religion. I would only believe in the bestest religion there is, and I wouldn't believe in a stupid one, you know, because I am so intelligent. But here, you're thinking you're better than somebody who is actually equal to you in whatever that field is. Okay. And then the third one is thinking I'm superior in relation to somebody who is better than us. Okay. So somebody who's clearly better than us, but we figure out one way in which we're actually superior to them. You know, they know this better than we do, but that's because they've been at it longer. But when we are as old as them, then we'll be far superior to where they are right now. Okay? So you can see these first three all come about through comparing ourselves to others. Okay? So comparing ourselves to others is not a good deal. It gets, and it's not a good idea. It gets us involved in all sorts of twisted ways of thinking about others and thinking about ourselves. Okay? And so we start lying to ourselves, telling ourselves we're better than others, telling ourselves we're worse than others. And then the mind, wherever we're going, whatever we're doing, we're constantly comparing ourselves to others. Okay? So you go to the our monastic gathering once a year from the people from different traditions, and you ordained before some of the Zen people did their what did they do? It's called. They have some ceremony in which they receive a transmission, okay? So when we meet, that's considered their ordination, yeah? But we ordained long before they had their transmission. But they had their transmission, yeah, before we took Bhiksuni ordination. So that means they sit ahead of us. But we've actually been ordained longer. Yeah. And we are superior because we have been ordained longer. And because we follow Tibetan Buddhism. So we're definitely superior. So we should sit in front of them because they are inferior. Right? Yeah. We all agree. They don't agree with us. And the system that was organized says we do it their way, not our way. Okay? So what I'm saying is we can get wigged out about anything, some way in which we're superior to other people, and then when others don't recognize our superiority. Ooh, okay. So then you have arrogance, then you have attachment to reputation, and then you have anger, because people are not recognizing how wonderful you are. So it's kind of three in one, a 3-in-1 way to create a lot of negative karma over something that doesn't matter. Okay? But we will find a way to make it matter. Okay. So, it probably happens when they have these fundraisers for political parties or fundraisers for charities and things like that. Yeah, I've never been to them because I've never been rich, so I don't get invited. But the people who are rich, they go and, they kind of, I'm a richer person than the other one, or I benefact more, or I'm closer to the people who run the organization, In universities, my goodness, among the people who graduate high, what rank are you in class? If you get a graduate degree, which university did you get admitted to? Who's the high school valedictorian? All these kinds of things. Yeah. If you play a musical instrument, compare yourself to others, everything. So I'm either superior to somebody who's inferior, I'm superior to somebody who's equal, and I'm even superior to the people who are better than me. Okay, so it's definitely an inflated view of ourselves. Yeah. Now, when you meet people who are inflated, how do you feel around them? Are you gravitated towards being with those people? Why not?
I was just making a gesture showing nausea.
Yeah. Okay.
Too much space, there's not, I can really feel there's not much space for any development. So I feel like a hold, this person takes so much space. And so where there is no space for me, so then I want to go somewhere else where I have space.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel like I'm an object of their pity. It's just, I'm just so pathetic. And then the conversation is usually about the other person.
Yes.
And then it's actually feeling invisible in their presence.
Yeah. So feeling invisible, thinking that they're pitying you, taking up all the space with their huge ego. Yeah. It isn't an attitude. And, so when we see people who are arrogant like that, that's what we think of them. But when we're arrogant, that's the same kind of thing that people think of us. Okay? So we can see how much arrogance pushes people away. I think it's actually the way our mind works. We think that arrogance will attract people to us because we think people will like us because we're so good at this, that, or we know all the right people, or we're exceptionally talented. So we think that letting other people know this will attract them to us because we're so good. But actually, the arrogance pushes people away because it's so disrespectful of them. Yeah. And like you said, there's only room for them. We are completely worthless. or at best, we can be objects of their use if they can use us to become more exalted than they already are. Mm-hmm.
It seems like people are attracted to arrogance in some way. Like the people in high school who were popular, they were arrogant, and that really sort of commanded respect. And like the former president, people really respect him, and he's extremely arrogant. So I'm wondering if people are confusing that with confidence. It is such an awful feeling. How could that possibly attract respect?
Yeah. I think that people often confuse it with confidence, or they confuse it with power, or they're jealous and they want to be near somebody who projects that appearance of being so great at whatever they're great at. Like the kids in high school, okay? We used to call them socias, the really popular ones, okay? And so people felt, if I could, had a soch as a friend, then I could, make it into their group. So there was jealousy involved. Yeah. There wasn't, did we actually like those people? Or did we want to be as admired as they are? Were we attracted to them as human beings? Or were we attracted to having status amongst others, just like they had status amongst others? Yeah. And the same thing with the former president. Yeah. People might think, because he projects having all this power and status and wealth. Are people really attracted to him as a human being? Do they care about him? Or are they attracted to that image and they somehow want to be part of what he is? Because you can also, we're coming to it, but you can be arrogant about, I know somebody who's very important. I'm not so important, but I know the important people. Okay. Or we can get arrogant if I'm not as good as somebody, but I'm almost as good. So we get arrogant about that. Okay. There's all sorts of ways in which we find some way, to make ourselves special. So, are those people who really put themselves up like that? Some, I find myself, it arouses some envy, but it's a very sick, disgusting feeling of envy because I don't really like those people. So how can I envy the people I don't like? Well, I like their status or their fame or their talent, but I don't like people who are boastful. Yeah. Okay, so there's a difference between arrogance and self-confidence. Okay? With self-confidence, you're not inflating your good qualities. You know what your good qualities are, and you have them in perspective, and you have the mind that wants to use them to make a positive contribution to society or to help somebody. So you aren't arrogant as if I am something special. It's just what those qualities are. You know other people who are better than you. You know that you're better than others, but you aren't interested in pulling rank. Okay, you're just interested in in being of benefit. Okay, so people who really have self-confidence don't need to go around presenting an inflated image of themselves because they believe in themselves. So for me, when I see people who are very inflated, to me it indicates that they don't really have self-confidence. Yeah, because if you really have self-confidence, you don't need to do a song and dance. Yeah. I just remember Circum Rinpoche he said this to me. He was still quite young. And he was saying, if I'm a good cook, I don't need to tell other people. I just cook a meal and they see it. I don't need to go around, how great and wonderful a cook I am. So, and it's the same with Dharma practitioners, people who go around with, I've been to, 15 3-month retreats and 14 half-month retreats, and I know this teacher and I know that teacher, and I've had private teachings with this one and private teachings with that one. And of course, here's my photograph, that my teacher signed, and I get to drive him around, and, and you find people like that in the Dharma. And I've studied this text, I've studied, this and that. I mean, yeah. So you can tell that when people are arrogant like that they haven't really absorbed what they've been studying. So I remember, this stands out in my mind, in 1989, there was a conference in Irvine. It was quite near where my parents lived. And it was some kind of, I forget, conference about something with a few thousand participants. And His Holiness was one of the speakers. And there was one session and they had all these other people there, famous people. They were talking something, I can't remember, but all these famous people on the stage with His Holiness in a panel. And it was a Q&A time, and somebody asked His Holiness, please could you, what do you think about this idea? And His Holiness sat there and he said, I don't know. And then he looked at the other people on the panel, and he said, what do all of you think? And the room got so quiet because the expert of the experts said, I don't know. And in addition, he asked the other people for their ideas. And it's like, if you have that status, how could you say, I don't know? Well, because His Holiness, he doesn't have ego problems, He doesn't have to make himself look good to anybody else. He has self-confidence. Yeah, he has self-confidence. So he can be humble. When you don't have self-confidence, then you can't be humble. Yeah, because you don't believe in yourself. So you're terrified that if you're less than other people, then you really are bad. So you never want to be humble or last or anything like that. You want to be first. So it's very interesting to observe, The very arrogant people, I think, have some deep-seated, not really, not a good self-confidence. Yeah, and the people who can be very humble are quite confident. I think they believe in themselves, and they have no need to try and prove themselves to other people. Yeah. Because why do we try and prove ourselves? Why do we do a song and dance to impress other people? Because we don't really believe in ourselves. So we're trying to create an appearance, and we think if I can convince other people that I am really that wonderful, then I must be that wonderful. So what we're doing is we're giving our power to other people, and so that they can tell us who we are. And if they tell us we're wonderful, well, we must be wonderful. And if they tell us we're awful, then we must be awful. And so inside, we're not very stable emotionally, because it depends completely about what other people say about us. What they say to us directly, what we hear that they're saying to other people. Yeah. And so then when you get a situation, where one person is praising you and another person's criticizing you for the exact same quality or event, then you get really confused. You don't know who you are, because you're giving all your power to other people, and other people have no idea what's really going on inside of us. How can they tell us that we're worthwhile or we're ignorant? Yeah. They can maybe comment on the wisdom of our choices or behavior, but to tell us who we are as a human being, they can't do that. They don't know what's going on inside. Yeah. But we believe them because we don't know how to evaluate ourselves in a reasonable way. Okay? So instead of just saying, okay, I have this ability, this is good, this area I'm lacking at, and having some reasonable, assessment, then, if we can't assess ourselves like that, then we wait for other people to assess us and tell us who we are and if we're worthwhile. So we totally give our power away, and then we believe them, and then we get confused when they tell us something about ourselves that doesn't fit our image. Yeah, so when we think we're lousy and somebody else says, oh, you're so brilliant, you're so talented, or somebody says, I love you, we must say, though this person's a jerk, how can they think I'm so good? Yeah, even though we hunger for that praise, because it boosts us up, but at the same time, this person doesn't know what they're talking about. So we get totally, confused. And, and then consistently this thing of comparing ourselves to others as if that were a good standard to go by about our worth as a human being. Yeah. So everybody has the Buddha nature. Everybody should be respected. One person is not more valuable than the other.
Why is it that it seems like in the West more people have a lack of self-confidence?
I don't know, but I wonder if it's because there's so much emphasis in the West about being an individual and being unique. Yeah, you're supposed to be unique. You're supposed to be an individual. You yourself are better or more talented or more gorgeous or more athletic than other people. Yeah. Whereas in other cultures, your identity is more a group identity of your family or your clan or your tribe, something like that. But in the West, we're supposed to be individuals. Yeah. We're supposed to have our own ideas and our own opinions. And that shows how intelligent we are if we have opinions. And this starts when you're very young. You go to preschool. What's your favorite color? you have to have an opinion. You can't say, I don't know, or I don't have a favorite color. You have to have an opinion. And parents ask their children, do you want apple juice or do you want orange juice? And the kid has to think, well, let's see, do I feel like orange juice? Do I feel like apple juice? You know, they have to have an opinion to be somebody. You can't just say, I'm thirsty, give me something to drink. Yeah, you can't just say, you know, I'll take whatever shoes they are. You have to specify a color, your favorite color. Yeah, it's so interesting, you know? And I think that that puts pressure on the individual, you know, that we have to be somebody in it with, you know, the kind of juice you like and your favorite color and your favorite TV program. Yeah, your favorite sports team, excuse me. Yeah. So, yeah. No. But you can see all of it circles around the view of a personal identity. It all circles around grasping at an I that exists inherently. Yeah. And our desperate efforts to try and prove to ourselves that that I really exists. Yeah, so to prove that that I really exists, that I has to become very important. So then, of course, we compare it to other people. Yeah. And we exclaim ourselves. Yeah. Look how beautifully I made that bed. I can make beds better than anybody else. Yeah. Watch the mind. It's incredible what we will somehow, you know, put ourselves up with. Yeah. At lunchtime, you know, I use chopsticks better than others. I don't look in other people's bowls. They're all looking in mine. You know, some way in which we can be better. It's really, when you think of it, pathetic. Yeah, isn't it? Because it's often over stupid things. But even if you are the best, you know, concert pianist, okay, you're talented, that's great. But when you die, your piano's not coming with you. And all your memorized, you know, Tchaikovsky things, you know, that's not coming with you. Okay, so then the fourth kind of arrogance is the arrogance that regards our aggregates and thinks, I. Okay, so this one is also called the conceit of I am. And to me, this one, you know, this really hits the hammer on the nail, the conceit of I am. So based on self-grasping, we believe ourselves to be inherently existent and very important. I exist. Just that ability to say, I exist. You know, and who's that I that exists? It's an inherently existent one that we really believe in. It's who we are, that immutable thing. Yeah. So based on the aggregates, I exist. I am. It's the conceit. I love that term, the conceit of I am. Isn't that a great term? It really describes it so perfectly. Yeah. Because every situation we walk into, even when we're nervous and we feel inferior and we wonder, how am I ever going to be with this group of superior people? There's still the I am there. Yeah, the conceit of I am. So, of course, everything revolves around us, doesn't it? And the fifth one is the arrogance that thinks we have good qualities that we don't have. So the other day I mentioned pretension. Yeah, so pretension is pretending to have good qualities that we don't have. Yeah, so that pretension is very much related to this arrogance. The arrogance is really thinking, I have those good qualities. Yeah. It's like, oh, I know the method to benefit bodhicitta, so well. I can teach this topic, I can lead meditations. I can, play the piano. I can hit a softball. I can hit a home run. And everybody cheers when I hit a home run. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Okay. Meanwhile, we're usually 3 strikes and we're out. But our image of ourselves, we think that we have good qualities that we don't. I am the most humble person. All these other people here, they have their noses in the air. But I'm of their class, but I'm very humble. I don't show off my knowledge. Okay, that was the 5th arrogance. The 6th one is arrogance thinking we are just a little bit inferior to someone who is really wonderful. Okay, so this is the one I mentioned before. So we may think, in this group of esteemed people, I am the least qualified, implying that although we are less than those who are experts, we definitely are better than the majority of other people. Okay, so that's the first part of how this one manifests. Yeah, in this group of, talented people who know rocket science, yeah, I am the least qualified. Yeah, they are the important people at NASA. Yeah, they're the ones who made the Challenger crash. I'm less important than them. I wasn't responsible for the crash. So there's an esteemed group of people, and I'm just a little bit inferior to them. Yeah. Or it claims status by being associated with somebody who is better than us. I am the disciple of a truly great spiritual master. Yeah, I am that teacher's disciple. Yeah. So he's better than me, but he's teaching me implication. I'm special because he's teaching me. Yeah. So sometimes, with this one, we want other people to envy us. We want people to be jealous of us. Yeah. I'm, sometimes it manifests as I'm better than these people, or sometimes it manifests as, I'm nearly as good as somebody who's really excellent, or I'm the student of somebody who's really excellent. Yeah. So our status by who we know. And we love to drop names, don't we? We love to drop names. Even though the people whose names we drop are not very important. But somehow I know them. So in whatever circle you run in, it's like, like you talk about somebody who ordained long time ago. Oh, I know that person. I know that person. Yeah. Who knows where they are, if they're still in robes or what they're doing. But I'm somehow important because I knew them. Really, they're not much. They're to be respected. They're a human being, but, they're not somebody that I should, get puffed up by knowing. Yeah. But I make myself puffed up because I know so many people. Yeah. And they know who I am too. Yeah. Doesn't matter that they call me Pema Chodron. And they say, you don't look like your photograph. I read your book, the one, what is it? Something. Yeah, When Things Fall Apart. I read your book. It was so great. Yeah. Yeah. Will you sign my copy? Well, actually, I'm not Pema Chodron. Sorry to disappoint you. Okay. But yeah, we get proud of who we know. Yeah. Coming back to high school, if you knew some of the soshas, if, they lived next door to you or something like that, you knew who they were. Yeah, you knew their family. You never played with them because they were better than us. But we knew them. Oh, I know so-and-so. They live across the street from me. Yeah, we get some status from that, don't we? Actually, we don't hang out with that person or anything, but we think we're somehow special because we know them. And then seventh, arrogance, thinking our faults are virtues. This one is really negative, okay? Because we're very proud of our faults because we mistakenly think that they're virtues. For example, an ethically degenerate person thinks he is upstanding and righteous, or he thinks he's so clever. Yeah. In the States, if you can finagle the system so that you pay very little tax, people admire you. You got out of paying that tax. You must be very intelligent. Okay? So, they've finagled the system. They're cheating. They get what I call corporate welfare. People are against giving welfare to single mothers and so on. But corporate welfare, yeah, the big companies are having difficulties. The government gives them millions of dollars to sustain them. Or, they give them money just to keep them in business. Like, this Carrier, that factory that was going to close because they were giving a lot of jobs to China. And then Trump came and said, this was in Mike Pence's state, and he said, we're going to keep this factory open. Okay. Yeah, to Mexico, was it? Yeah. And so, the government gave them millions of dollars to keep the company open. To me, that's welfare. That's corporate welfare. I personally think that the single mother needs the money more to feed their kids and give their kids a good education. But, to give it to the corporation so that they can give their CEO, more money, then, many people think, yeah, that's fine. That's good for the economy or whatever it is. Anyway, thinking that your faults are virtues. Yeah. So Trump paid $750 taxes for a couple of years, and many years he paid no tax. And people think, wow, he must be so intelligent. What a great guy. He wound up not paying taxes. Yeah. And me, I just, I'm a blue-collar worker, and they take the taxes out of my paycheck, and I have to pay the taxes. But, he makes so much money, and he's found a way to work the system. Yeah, very interesting, isn't it? How we think that we can admire people for their non-virtue, and how we ourselves can be very proud of our non-virtue. Yeah. So-and-so was, bossing me around. I gave it to them, I shut them up good. Yeah. And you're very proud of yourself for, punching somebody and breaking a few of their teeth. Yeah. It's really rather pathetic, isn't it? How we seek to feel power, how we seek to establish ourselves. Yeah. And we wind up in a lot of suffering. Yeah. And we have a huge military. We're very proud of our military. It's the best military in the world. What are we proud of? That we can kill people more efficiently than anybody else? Is that something to be proud of? Maybe for some people it is. It's not for me. Yeah. But, okay, so arrogance, thinking our faults are virtues, and being proud of our non-virtue. Okay, so in The Precious Garland by Nagarjuna, he delineates 7 types of arrogance in a slightly different way, although the meaning is generally the same as above. The one exception is the arrogance of inferiority. Okay, so that's in Nagarjuna's list. So here, Nagarjuna describes it as the arrogance of disparaging ourselves and thinking that we are useless and incapable. And the Pali tradition, when they talk about arrogance, agrees with Nagarjuna's gloss of that one. Okay? So the arrogance of disparaging ourselves and thinking we are useless and incapable. So you were asking why in the West people have such low self-esteem. That kind of low self-esteem is a kind of arrogance. I'm useless, I'm incapable, I'm just like, so unworthwhile. And then, okay, the trip. Okay, so these, the next 7, this is Nagarjuna's list. Okay, Jeffrey went through it with us, I think, once upon a time. So concerning these, the first is called arrogance. It is where one thinks of oneself as even inferior to the inferior, equal to the equal, or greater than or equal to the inferior. So again, this one encapsulates a few different ways of comparing ourselves to others. So we're worse than the worst, okay? We're equal to the equal, or we're greater than or equal to the inferior. What are you so proud about that for? Okay. So that's called just regular arrogance. Second one is presumptive arrogance. For one to presume that one is equal to someone who is better. Okay, so in the first list, this was the arrogance, thinking that you are better than someone who's better. Here it's you're equal to someone who's better. Okay. Then the third, if one presumes oneself to even be better than one's betters, okay, this is arrogance beyond arrogance. Okay, so this is arrogance with a cherry on top. When you think you are better than the people who are better than you. Okay, then thinking oneself to be even loftier than the lofty is excessively bad, like developing sores on top of one's boils. Okay, do you have an image of that? You have this boil that is so big and painful and full of pus. And then you have a sore on top of that boil that's infected and even, more painful. So that's what, when you think of yourself to be even loftier than the lofty, yeah, it's like having a sore on top of a boil. Yeah. It really shows that we're in bad shape, doesn't it? The person who sees themselves like that, they really don't have any confidence. Okay, then the fourth verse here, the 5 empty aggregates are what are called the aggregates subject to clinging. When one apprehends them as I, this is called the conceit of thinking I am. So the aggregates have no inherent existence. Okay? Nothing. No essential essence. So we take these things that have no essential essence, we cling to them, and we make, and based on them, we think that there's an I. So we're hallucinating on top of the hallucinated appearances. Okay? So it's like the sore on top of the boil. You have the hallucinated appearances of inherently existent aggregates. And on that basis of that hallucination, you hallucinate an inherently existent I. Okay? So that's the conceit of I am. Then 5, to presume that one has attained a result that one has not attained is to have conceited arrogance. This is thinking that we have good qualities that we don't have. That one that's linked with pretension. In our precepts, our parajika precepts, the ones about lying, where you claim to have realizations you don't have. So that's this one. Okay, you think that you have good qualities, you've attained realizations that you don't have. and then you lie about it. And that's considered the worst kind of lying. Now you might go, why is that the worst kind of lying? Wouldn't, deceiving people and tricking them out of millions of dollars be worse? Isn't breaking their trust when they, care for us, isn't that worse than this? The story behind that one, okay, of the thinking, well, these guys, they didn't really think they had attained the result. I think they knew they hadn't, but they lied in order to get what they wanted. So it's not exactly an example of this kind of arrogance. But people can have this kind of arrogance and behave in the same way that the people did in the story. The way the story is, and from here you'll see why this one is so bad, is there was a famine in where these monks were, and people didn't have enough food, and monks weren't getting much going on Pindapat. So they started acting as if they had realizations and telling people that they, I can talk to the devas and the nagas, and I'm a stream enterer, and I've realized this and that. And the people, having so much faith in the Sangha and thinking that these people had realizations, then gave them the food instead of keeping it for themselves. Out of respect for people with attainments, they gave them the food instead. But these people didn't really have the attainments. When the Buddha found out, he really gave it to them. Why is what they did so bad? Because it's deceiving people with faith. Yeah, and when we deceive people who have faith in the Dharma, or have faith in us because we're Buddhist practitioners, even as a lay practitioner or as a monastic, and that's really bad. I mean, that's really deceiving people in a very awful way, taking advantage of them. Okay, so like I said, the monks who did that, they knew they didn't have the realizations, but they pretended to. So after the Varsa was over, they looked very well because they had eaten well during the Varsa, because the lay people had given them their food. And when the Buddha asked her, said, gee, you guys look really fat and happy. What's the story? And they told the Buddha what they did. And he went, what? Yeah, you did that? And then he, it's a serious precept. Okay, so yeah, even if we don't lie, thinking we've attained a result that we haven't, yeah, I've realized emptiness. Actually, what you've had is just some kind of correct assumption. Yeah. Oh, I got a glimpse of emptiness, or yeah. Okay, so that's conceited arrogance. And that's the fifth one here. And then the sixth one in Nagarjuna's list is the wise know that boasting about one's negative deeds is erroneous arrogance. So here you're very proud of your non-virtue, I wiggled out of paying taxes. I committed this crime and got away with it. Yeah, this is kind of a Roger Stone thing, how he presents himself. Okay. Then 7 is deriding oneself, thinking, I cannot manage. I cannot do this. I am unqualified. this is beyond my ability. I can never get to that ability at all. So that is the arrogance of inferiority. Okay, so such are the 7 forms of arrogance in brief. That one, the arrogance of inferiority, when I was trying to learn Tibetan, Geshe Nawang Dargay said to me, if you can become a Buddha, you can learn Tibetan. Okay, Geshe-la, yeah, they say I could become a Buddha. Okay, I'll try and learn Tibetan. And I tried, and I didn't have all the right circumstances. Yeah. And it did have to do with the circumstances. When I had a Tibetan teacher, I didn't have the time. When I had the time, there was no teacher, or I was sick, I had hepatitis, or I had visa problems, or, you learn something and then, you have to stop in the middle so you never get anywhere. That was the thing that was so traumatic for me, because Lekshe Somo and Jampa Sedran, they both know Tibetan. And Lekshe, we were ordained, we took Gyatso in the same year, but she took Bhiksuni before me, so she sat ahead of me in the line. Jampa Sedran took Gyatso after me, but she took Bhiksuni a year before me. She sat ahead of me in the line too. And they both knew Tibetan, and I didn't. And the other person who sat next to me, she had ordained as a Gyatso after me, but I became a Bhikshuni before her. No, wait a minute, maybe she was on this side of me too. Yeah, you know what? She might have been on this side. But I had to make torma offerings to her. Yeah. I would give her chocolate and different things. Yeah, it's the same idea about offering torma. Yeah. And then after that, there were all these people who were ordained after me who knew Tibetan. I didn't. And that was the big thing I had to make peace with. I really had to make peace with that. I'm like, okay, that's the way it is. It would have been really helpful to know, but I just don't have the conditions to learn Tibetan. And to put myself where I had the conditions to learn Tibetan would distract me from my Dharma practice. And my Dharma practice is more important. And anyway, I can't hear the difference between ka, ka, ka. They're the same. Ka, 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 pa, pa, ba. Tsa, tsa, tsa. These are the same. So, yeah. And anyway, in Tibet, every time you cross a ridge, the accent changes. And if you go from central Tibet to Amdo, many people can't even understand what the Amdoas are saying. Okay? So, what to do? I just had to keep, my mantra was Hakomasan, Hakomasan, Hakomasan. It means, I don't know. I don't know. And my other mantra was Chukho. Chai Mindu, Chukho. Okay, don't give me that awful butter tea. Just give me hot water. But the hot water usually is in a thermos that had butter tea. So it has this grease floating on top of it. Okay, so Okay, so there are certain things in our lives that we just have to make peace with. You know, that other people are better than us, and that's the way it is. And actually, that's good. Because then when you need, when Jampa Sadran and I were together at this one meeting with these monks who were going through the Vinaya, then she translated for me. So I could just sit there and look stupid, and then she could translate. Of course, she understood everything, and I only got the summary. But, you learn to rejoice that other people are better than you. Okay. Arrogance blocks us from gaining new qualities. When we believe we are already top-notch, we are not respected and we are not receptive to learning. Instead, we remain complacent or even smug without endeavoring to cultivate virtuous qualities. Arrogance due to our Dharma knowledge or accomplishments does not plague beginners. At that time, we are aware of how little we know and how much we need to learn and practice. But after we have studied and practiced for a while, arrogance can easily set in and arrest our spiritual growth. Okay? So, yeah, it's true, isn't it? When we're baby beginners and we come in, we don't know anything. Everybody knows we don't know anything. It's very easy to be humble. Okay? Then you learn a little bit, and the next crop of baby beginners come. And it's like, well, I can lead you in meditation, and I can answer your questions, and, I can introduce you to so-and-so and so-and-so. And, they asked for somebody to go speak at that event. I'll go speak. All of a sudden, we know a lot and we become arrogant. When really, we don't know very much at all. It's just we're a little bit more knowledgeable than we were when we were baby beginners. Yeah. It's like you think you've been ordained, like I've been ordained 5 years. Wow, I know so much. I've been ordained 10 years. Oh, now I'm a Tara. Yeah, they think if you get a title, you're a Tara. I've been ordained 20 years. I'm a Mahatera. Yeah. And then you look at the level of your practice, and it's like, yeah. It's like, I don't know anything. I don't understand these things. I can repeat some words that sound good, but I don't really understand them. So it is important to discriminate between arrogance and self-confidence. Arrogance is often a cover for insecurity, whereas self-confidence acknowledges our abilities without inflating them. Self-confident people have no need to boast of their achievements. Self-confidence, an essential factor on the spiritual path, should be nurtured. Okay? So don't confuse self-confidence with arrogance. Arrogance on the spiritual path is like poison. Self-confidence is important. His Holiness always says, to be a bodhisattva, you have to have tremendous self-confidence. You have to really think, yes, I can do that. I can cultivate that quality. Yeah? So he says that repeatedly. Mm-hmm. So self-confidence, an essential factor on the spiritual path, should be nurtured. Having the thought, as I progressively practice the path, I'll be able to accomplish all the bodhisattva activities, is a helpful and necessary attitude. It is not arrogance. Yeah, you're thinking, as I progress, as I keep going, I can accomplish these, Awareness of our potential boosts our enthusiasm to engage in Dharma study and practice. Similarly, rejoicing at our virtue with a sense of satisfaction, thinking, I feel good because I kept my precepts in a challenging situation, is not arrogance. It's a way of reinforcing our virtue. Okay. So when we create virtue, or when we're facing a difficult situation and we are able to stop our habitual action of creating non-virtue, then to say good job, and acknowledge that we did something well. Because that is reinforcing our virtues. If we go out and say, well, I did this, that's arrogance. But, just feeling like, oh, wow, I did this well. It's nice to have that feeling about yourself. Okay, so questions, comments?
Looking at Nagarjuna's list of 7, I don't think I fully understand thinking ourselves equal to the equal, how arrogance coming in there.
Well, I'm equal to the equal, but I'm actually better. and still it's comparison. We don't really think I'm equal to the equal. Yeah, do we? I am better than them. Yeah, we're equal. Yeah, we're equals, but I'm better. And I have more potential.
With the conceit of I am, how does that differ from the view of the personal identity or the transcendent?
Yeah, it's very related to that. Yeah, it says it's on the basis of the view of the personal identity. So it's, I see it as something even, you have the self-grasping, and then it's like, you make it really special. Yeah. You're grasping at an inherently existent self. That is really in a special one, because I exist.
Would comparing the path of the individual liberation versus the bodhisattva path be an arrogance, since this is a personal choice?
It depends on your attitude. If you just see, okay, I choose this path appeals to me more than the other path, that's not arrogance. It's your personal choice. It's according to your disposition. If you say, I am better than the people who follow this other path, that's arrogance. And that is actually showing how little you understand of the Dharma. Yeah.
How do you recommend responding when you feel like someone's pitying you?
I just ignore it. What can you say? What can you say? Actually, you got it all wrong. I'm better, Yeah, I think you just, yeah.
What is the difference between arrogance of inferiority and jealousy?
The arrogance of inferiority is, again, it's inflating yourself. I am worse than others. Yeah. So it's a view you have about yourself. Jealousy is actually falls under anger because it's, oh, this person has the good stuff and I should have it. Okay. So they can be related, in one incident, but they're different.
When you experience the laziness of discouragement of the result, path, or basis, is the root affliction behind this the arrogance of inferiority, or is discouragement its own affliction?
Discouragement is said to be a type of laziness, and I think that's because it makes you, it zaps your joyous effort. So it's laziness in that respect. But it is also a kind of arrogance of inferiority. You know, I'm just like, I'm the worst one. I'm hopeless. I'm just not good enough. I can't measure up. But see how special I am. You know, I can't be the best, so I'm going to be the worst. Yeah. So I need special attention because I'm so bad and so incompetent.
Is arrogance then a kind of an attachment to oneself then?
Yeah.
So it falls under attachment where jealousy falls under anger.
Yeah. It's actually its own sick one, but it goes more, I think, towards the attachment side in the sense of, bolstering up something, inflating the value of something. In this case, yourself. Okay. Nothing else? Okay, then we'll dedicate. And next week we'll do ignorance. So come prepared. What are you saying? What are you talking about? Huh?